Zero profit doesn't mean zero accounting profit. It means zero economic profit. In the previous chapter, we talked about how when entry is unrestricted, then that's going to result in firms having zero profit, because whenever firms have positive profit, new firms are going to enter, and so in the long run, the price is going to drop because there's going to be more firms, and so eventually the price is going to drop to the point where economic profit is zero. So what if entry is limited? So you can't have an unlimited number of firms entering the market. Take land, for example. There's only so much of it. So let's consider an example. You've got a farmer who grows corn, and Q is the amount of corn that they produce. They've got a marginal cost curve, and they've got an average cost curve. Let's say in the beginning, there's a landowner, and this landowner is not charging the farmer for using his land. So the farmer is using the land for free, and so given the free land, the marginal cost is where it is here, and the average cost is where it is over here. So the farmer is going to then pick a quantity Q that maximizes his profit, and it's going to be, given the price P, the farmer is going to pick the quantity Q where marginal cost equals P, and the profit is going to be the revenue, which is this rectangle here, minus the cost, which is the smaller rectangle, leaving the profit. So it's the price times quantity times average cost. And in this case, we see that the profit is positive. Great. So in the short run, this firm is making a positive profit because they're able to use the land for free. Now let's suppose there are other farmers who would also like to use this land. Of course, after all, this farmer is making a positive profit. So maybe other farmers would also like to make some profit. Well, they're going to come to the landowner and say, hey, I would like to use your land, and I'll pay you for it. Landowner is no longer going to say, hey, you can use the land for free. Landowner is now going to want rent. How much rent should the landowner charge? The answer is pi. The amount of profit that the farmer was able to make is what the landowner should charge. And that's because the total amount of land is limited. So in the long run, the competing farmers would bid up until the price was pi. Let's say the farmer had to pay less than pi. Let's say they paid some rental rate R, and R is less than pi. Then another farmer might come over and say, hey, listen, I'm going to pay you R prime between R and pi. Then the landowner would say, okay, yeah, I'm willing to accept this higher rental rate. And so this new farmer would be able to take the land from the first farmer. And then the original farmer might say, okay, well, listen, I'm going to give you something a little bit higher. And then the new farmer would say, okay, well, I'll give you something higher. And this would keep going until we reach the rental rate of pi. So they would outbid one another until they reached pi. All you need is two farmers. So how does this affect the cost curves? If the rental rate in the long run is going to be pi, then that's going to cause the average cost with the rent. Remember, this was the average cost without the rent. And they were able to make this much profit. But now the landowner is going to take away that much rent. So with the rent, the average cost is going to shoot up by this much. So this implies that in the long run, the firm is going to make zero profit. Again, we look at this here. The average cost is now such that the minimum average cost is going to be exactly equal to the price, because we've moved the price of the land up from 0 to pi. So the highest long-run profit that you can make is 0. This means that if you are not maximizing your profit as a firm, then in the long run, you're going to make a profit that's less than 0. Because remember, the highest profit you can make is 0. So if you're not maximizing profit, you're making less than 0. What do we know about firms that make profit less than 0? In the long run, they're making a loss. And if you're making a loss, then you're going to go out of business in the long run. So in order to stay in business, a firm has to be maximizing profit. And I want to emphasize here that when I say maximizing profit, what I mean is that you're maximizing your economic profit, and that firms are making zero economic profit. They're still going to be making accounting profit, but they're going to be making zero economic profit. And by economic profit, we're taking into account the opportunity cost. So they're not making any more money doing what they're doing than they could be if they were doing something else. So the best possible use you could make with your time or effort or whatever resources you're putting into your business is just as profitable as whatever you're doing.